James, if you're forward, come on up. You may.
Can you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Jordan James.
Where do you work?
I work at Kentucky Sports Bar in Midlands, a bartender.
Do you know Danny Dawson?
Yes, we met in the summer of 2010. He came in, I was bartending. He comes into Chuggy's pretty often. He's a really good tender.
You said Danny Dawson is a regular customer. Have you ever seen Danny leave the bar and drive while he's intoxicated?
No. From what I've seen, Danny always leaves his car there if he's had too much to drink or always finds a taxi home. I wish most of my customers were as responsible as him when it came to drinking and driving.
Now let me ask you, do you know Taylor Hobson?
Yes, she was working at Chuggy's when I started. I didn't really know her that well. All I was warned that she would take the keys away if anybody had a key.
Has Danny ever been forced to leave his car at the bar?
No, he's always voluntarily handed over his keys or found a ride home. Sometimes I'll get off work at like 8 in the morning and I'll see him coming back completely sober to pick up his car.
Do you know Danny Dawson outside of the bar?
Yeah, we played softball together.
Is he any good?
No, Danny can hardly hit a softball with a bat without falling face
Objection.
first.
Improper misdriver
To his softball ability?
to his coordination.
Response.
May I please have a proposal?
Sure.
Right, well, if I may offer, Your Honor, if I may offer proof of the witness is going to testify that the answer she's about to give is that Danny Dawson's coordination on a regular basis compared to, regular basis, and throughout the case will prove how his lack of coordination led him to fail his field sobriety test conducted by Officer Foster.
All right. And your response to that?
She stated that's what we were going to say.
No. She stated, in general, as a learning timeout, a lot of times during an objection, an attorney will make an offer of proof. And that's so that the judge can understand what the argument's about. And what she did is she said, Your Honor, I expect that if the witness answers, she's going to say X. So that's what she was just doing, so that I would understand the argument.
She's bringing up the coordination of the defendant, talking about how he failed the field sobriety test and that his character evidence, his coordination, and his knowledge.
All right. I know that sometimes character evidence is allowed and sometimes it's not. Under 404, when is it allowed or when is it not allowed?
Under 404,
Well, you're trying to keep this out, so tell me when it's not allowed and how this applies.
using clumsiness as a trait, action in conformity, clumsy in past as clumsy on September 24th.
All right. So you're saying that she's trying to establish action in conformity in violation of Rule 404.
Your Honor, 404B states that this goes to show that Danny Dawson has knowledge of the consequences of drinking and driving, and that he tries to avoid it, not action in conformity.
Yeah, that's for an objection. That's an answer. That's a response that we wrote for an objection later.
Forget about that. We are not using this for the truth of the matter asserted.
That's hearsay. All right. 404. You can help your opposing counsel out. 404 allows evidence under certain circumstances. What are those?
None.
No. You need to know when is 404 evidence allowed?
To prove the character of a person or to show action for the therewith, proof of motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, or absence of mistake or accident.
Right. So basically, the way the if I heard you right, the way the rule reads is, it's not allowed to show action and conformity, but it is allowed to show anything else on the plan, right? Okay. This is an issue that took me years to understand, character evidence. I don't think, and maybe they'll prove me wrong, that they're gonna try to show action and conformity, as it relates to this crime. But we'll see, but for now, it's overruled, and I will allow the witness to testify.
As I previously asked, is he any good at softball?
No, Danny can hardly hit a softball and swing a bat without falling face first in the dirt. One time we had a local cop on our team give him a field sobriety test because we'd always joke around and say that he'd be the one that would get a wrongful DUI conviction for being so clumsy.
Objection, under 404B, conformity.
That's much closer. Your argument is that they're attempting to establish
That he failed his field sobriety test prior to September 24th based on his coordination, so therefore that can be used as why he passed it on September 24th as well.
But basically, you're trying to establish that because he failed it before while he's sober, that's showing action and conformity to when he took it later. But isn't it your contention that later he went sober? So it's not really an apples to apples comparison?
They're attempting to show that he failed it because he's clumsy regardless of sobriety.
All right, well, I think that no jury is going to give this any weight in the world, and so I will let them offer it, and the jury can take it as what it is.
Do you,
Sorry, I have a question, okay? Since we're admitting to the DUI, could she have stated something about that, since we're admitting that he was slightly intoxicated? It could be absence of the state act.
I'm not sure if I understand what you're asking.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
address this.
Um,
This is an issue that's going to be one that we have to deal with every case for the rest of the season, and so this is one we all need to get together on. So, anyone when you're direct.
do you know the results of this fake test?
Oh, well, they never told us the results, but to me, it didn't look like he'd been so hot for being stone cold sober.
Now let's go back to the day of September 24th, 2010. What happened that day?
I came in around noon to work. Danny came in a couple hours later. He had said something about being there for a job interview. I had mentioned something about it being a bit early to start the drinking. And then he said not to worry, that he already had a ride home and that he didn't plan on drinking much throughout the night. So,
Is that all he said?
no, he mentioned something about meeting up with some friends later.
Did Danny stay throughout the rest of the day?
Yes.
From what you remember, how many drinks did Danny have to drink himself?
Well, I know he came up to the bar with a friend, and I gave them each a shot of beer. Then I do believe somebody sent over a round of drinks to their table for the birthday girl. Other than that, I don't remember sending any drinks over there myself, and I don't remember anybody else sending them any drinks.
How long have you worked at Chubby's for?
A couple of years.
So it's safe to say, being a bartender for a couple of years, you're around people who drink.
Yes.
Are you around people who are intoxicated?
Yes.
So it is safe to say you are around people who are on all levels of intoxication.
Yes.
Do you remember what time Danny Dawson left the bar that night?
He came to settle up around, or after midnight, paid his tab.
Did you talk to Danny Dawson?
Yes, we talked.
Did Danny Dawson hand you a credit card when he came to pay for the bill?
Yes.
Were Danny Dawson's hands shaky when he had you do that credit card?
No.
Was Danny stumbling on any of his words?
Objection, leading question,
What is a leading question?
where she is giving a statement and just asking her to agree instead of letting her tell her story of what happened.
A leading statement is any question, or a leading question, I'm sorry. A leading question is any question that suggests the answer. What was your last question?
Danny stumbling on any of his words?
Is that a yes or no question? Does it suggest an answer?
Yes.
How does it suggest an answer? Isn't it a yes or no question? Was he
Yes.
stumbling?
Yes.
She can say yes or she can say no.
Yes.
Okay. And, I mean, Nathan, do you think that's a leading question? Was he stumbling?
What was he stumbling? I don't think in this particular context is. If you want to be a little bit more careful with it, you can say, was he or was he not stumbling? And you can rephrase it that way. Get the objection sustained. If you have a problem with it, you can just say, was he or was he not stumbling?
I mean, I understand that in reality,
Yeah.
she is leading, and she is, asking questions that she knows the answer to. But the way she's asking it is, are you wearing a red and gray shirt?
Yeah.
She can say no, she can say yes, so there's not really.
The rule is you cannot lead the witness except as necessary to develop the witness's testimony. To get out this testimony, you'd have to ask them, specifically as to the stumbling. I think that's the only really way to elicit that testimony. I'd make that argument on the other side.
I would just cut the question in half. Instead of saying, as he handed you a credit card, were his hands shaking? As he handed you a credit card, was he stumbling? All of that, just say, when he handed you the credit card, did he appear drunk?
Well,
Or what? But
all right, overall, ask your question again.
Was he stumbling on any of his words?
No,
Were Danny Dawson's eyes bloodshot?
no,
Was Danny Dawson walking properly?
yes,
After your last interaction with Danny Dawson on September 25th, 2010, do you believe Danny Dawson was intoxicated?
no, I do not. He seemed fine.
Thank you.
All right, cross-examination. You next.
I'm doing good, how are you?
As we discussed earlier, Danny Dawson is very quick to hand over his keys when he arrives at Chubby's.
Yes,
You can't count the number of times he's taken a cab, isn't that so?
yes,
Most of the time when he visits Chubby's, he's too drunk to drive, isn't that so?
when he is too drunk to drive, he does not drive, so.
You can't count the amount of times he has been too intoxicated to drive, therefore he hands over his keys, isn't that so?
Yeah.
Danny Dawson arrived early that afternoon.
Yes,
Danny Dawson was drinking that afternoon. Ms.
yes,
James.
he was,
Danny Dawson informed you he would not be driving.
yes,
So Danny Dawson was drinking that afternoon as if he would not be driving that evening.
yeah. He had mentioned he had arranged for a ride home, so.
Danny Dawson, the first time you met Danny Dawson, Ms. James, you knew he was a rainmaker. Is that correct?
Yes,
I'm sorry, you knew what?
He was a rainmaker. Will you please explain to the court, Ms. James, what a rainmaker is?
somebody that comes into your bar or restaurant and spends a lot of money and tips well.
You do good to get your bills paid, isn't that so, Ms. James?
I do what I have to do, yes.
Danny Dawson likes his drinks strong, isn't that so?
Yes.
He would rather have the alcohol content of one drink and two drinks than one. Foundational, Your Honor?
Well, foundational for what?
I'm proving that Danny Dawson was drinking strong drinks that evening as he did previously when he was willing to give up his keys and take it out.
You can get this information in, but you can't ask her what Danny Dawson thinks or likes or wants. But what you can do is say, has Danny ever excuse me, wrong cross. Danny's told you he likes his drink strong. Danny's told you this, and that way the same information comes in, but you can't ask her, Danny thinks this. Okay. So, for the first time today, sustained, rephrase the question.
Danny Dawson told you that night, thanks for pouring my drinks long and strong.
Yes.
So, Do you know about the, correlation between strong drinks and tips?
Well, you know, every bartender knows the Gulf to Green correlation.
Tell us about the Gulf to Green correlation, please, Ms. James.
Yeah, and it's a fact that the stronger the drink usually, the happier the customer, the bigger the tip.
Are Danny Dawson's tips normally large,
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
The night they were leaving, you saw them leaving, Ms. James.
I did.
Ms.
Well-
Hall,
Well, they came up to pay their bill and then they left, but I didn't actually see them outside of the bar.
you heard Ms. Hobson say she was too drunk to drive, isn't that so?
Objection hearsay?
Under 8033, she's stating her mental, physical condition.
So it's almost a present sense impression, or? Wait. Wait, this is Ms. Hobson in the bar stating that Ms. Hobson.
Her condition.
Okay, that Ms. Hobson's too drunk to drive, okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you rephrase your last question, please?
No, you can't ask her to do anything.
Oops.
That would make it a lot easier. In a side note, I think that all attorneys, your first thought when you have a hearsay objection should not be the exception. It's, is it for the truth? Are you really offering that for the truth? Or are you just offering it to show the effect that it had on the people around her? Yeah, and so it's not even really hearsay. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Mr. Mays, that Taylor Hobson saying she's drunk is really being offered not to prove that Hobson was drunk? Nobody cares if Hobson was drunk. It's being offered to show how it affected all the people that heard Hobson say that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, in general, everybody, when you have a hearsay objection, first go through am I offering it for the truth of the matter? Because most of the time you're not. Now, if you are, then go to your exception.
Your Honor, she's still asking for out-of-court statement in court for the truth of the matter asserted.
Or, I don't think it is for the truth of the matter asserted, therefore it wouldn't be hearsay, therefore it's admissible overall.
Ms. Hobson stated she was too drunk to drive. She stated she wanted to take a cab,
Yes.
and you heard Dawson respond that he was okay,
Yes.
that he would have them home in record time.
That was all said outside of the bar.
Did you hear him say that?
No, I did not.
Is that what you're telling the court today, Ms. James, that you did not hear Danny Dawson say he would have them home in record time? Permission to approach opposing counsel, Your Honor? Would you find in your previous statement where you heard Mr. Dawson state
Yes,
he would have them home in record time?
I'm sorry. Certain nights when yeah, okay. I did say that. I did hear them say that.
All right, we're gonna have a lesson on impeachment, but continue.
Okay. So yes, I did hear Danny say that he would have them home in record time.
Thank you, Ms. James. So, Ms. James, Danny Dawson did say he would have them home in record time.
Yes.
Did you not also previously hear him ask you earlier that afternoon if the dartboard was moving?
Yeah, he had asked me that, but it was more so, Danny's just not coordinated enough.
He,
When he's not drinking, when he's sober, he's clumsy. I've already said that. And there, it was just really crowded, and I didn't want anybody getting hit, not because he'd been drinking, but because it was Danny.
also, Ms. James, he told you, I guess I'm just out of
Yes.
tonight.
Yes, he said that.
Ms. James, you would like to see Danny Dawson continue coming to Chubby's, isn't that so?
Well, he's a friend of mine. I'd,
Do,
like him to be okay. I mean, I don't necessarily want him. I don't know. I'm confused as to what you're asking.
does Danny Dawson tip you $1,000 a year in tips, Ms. James?
Well, about that, but the IRS does take its fair share.
Right, Ms. James? So would you like Danny Dawson to continue coming to Chubby's to be able to give you those substantial tips?
Yes, but I mean, there will be other regulars too.
You have a relationship with Mr. Dawson, as you just stated, Ms. James, correct? You stated he's a good friend of you, Ms. James. Isn't it true that a customer you built a relationship with that is a rainmaker is easier to maintain than to build a relationship with a customer outside?
Objection, compound question?
Yes, I agree.
I'll restate it. Is it easier